And here we are at the Reefing Report once again. It's
Hey
for
everyone,
real.
Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank. We're here with Terrence
Oh, yeah.
Fugazi, rolling
Yes.
out to you on our weekly Sunday live stream.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
not just one time, one and done, Mark. We actually came back and did it again.
that's right. I mean, it's like the girl you want to see again. You come back and you ask her out next week, and she says yes, and here we are.
As long as we get viewers, and we do have viewers again coming in to see us, and it's been an exciting week to hear people's feedback all through the industry on the Reefing Report, Mark. I will tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised at the feedback that I've had from people.
It's not upset, so that's encouraging. Although, we like a little bit of drama, so if someone told us it was the worst thing they'd ever seen in their life, then we'd still probably be here doing it, knowing you and me.
Oh, I definitely would still be here doing it, but it is always it always is encouraging. Sometimes, and the difference usually between the person who's just like trying to be nice and go, yeah, oh, sounds really good, or the person that's like, wow, that's interesting. I would go back to that again and again. I always kind of want to get the latest information at the Reefing Report now, so let me bookmark that. And there was a lot of that this week, not just from viewers that are on here right now, but some industry people too that had contacted me, Mark.
Great. Yeah, well, I know all about people putting on the happy face. I'm from the South, so
Yeah,
it's
isn't
good
that
to
the
get good.
worst? Isn't that the worst
Yeah.
sometimes? Because I mean, I don't suffer from that disease, as you well know.
That's the best is when you have an algae problem in your tank and it's like green hair algae everywhere and they don't know any better and they're like, wow, it's so pretty. It all moves. And you're like, oh,
Yeah, I had to,
no.
I have absolutely. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for those people who have joined us here at the, weekly roundup at the Reefing Report, where we're doing editorial on the week in the reefing news that we push out there on the Reefing Report. For those of you who haven't been here, it's at the live stream last week because we're on a roll. We got two. It's really where Mark and I go through those events and we give editorial comment as free as we possibly can. I'm a little more free probably than Mark in that respect at this point, and give our feedback on it and take your questions and find out what your interests are. But first thing to mention here is we're over 100 subs in 1
Oh,
week.
congrats. That's,
So
I remember trying to think how long it took me when I started Mr. Saltwater Tank to get 100 subs. It was,
I don't know. It's a little thing. It's not a lot. Okay. But we're not doing makeup on the camera, and we're not like
you're
showing
not?
showing some large guy jumping off the roof into my swimming pool or something like that. So hopefully it's a sign for growth to come. But only you guys can help us get there. So right now, those of you that have joined us, meaning you, Danny Chacon, and you, Jody Jefferson, and the rest of you out there, just do us a favor right now. Go grab the link to this live stream if you're watching it in YouTube or in Facebook, and go add it and put it into some of the groups out in Facebook or on your own Facebook page, and share it and get some people into the stream tonight. At some point, I'm going to remember who you people are because I'm going to go out and look, and I'm going to have swag. I'm going to have merch that I'm going to be handing out, and you're going to want to be one of those people. So give us a help with that while we're kind of talking this up. So 100 subs, I don't know, 107, 108. It's something like that the last time I looked. Yeah, it's good news. So why do you think we're doing this, Mark?
Oh, I mean, we're going to be influencers one day on Instagram, Terrence, and they're going to like get some free swag and all that. Well, you'll see us on a boat. We'll be like, yo, check it out.
No, Mark. The reason we're doing it is because we're going to get rich. We're going to get
Oh,
filthy rich off of this. That's
oh.
exactly why we're doing it. Nobody told you?
I mean, I figured money was bad, and if we just did good things and good stuff would come to us, so you don't ever have to pay bills.
I do believe a little bit in that philosophy.
I do.
I do believe in, do what's good, do what's right, do things that people want, and eventually it'll come around and you'll succeed from it. And I hope that the Reefing Report is going to be like that for people, and for us. And to that end, of course, we do want to get paid a little bit for doing this. So we are going to need to have sponsors at some point.
But not yet.
But not yet. So right now, we've had a few different industry people already contact us saying, I love what you guys got going. We want to get in early on it. We want to, sponsor you guys and whatnot. But what were our thoughts on that, Mark?
I mean, we appreciate it. We love the confidence, and we will get there at some point. And for now, we're just doing this on our own. We're hanging out, and we're seeing where it goes before we pull the trigger on sponsorships.
Absolutely. We want to build the audience. We want to, to make it worthwhile out of the gate, and we want to focus on that part of the site, and of course of these live streams. We will give credit where credit is due in some of these things. For instance, I am wearing a hat. Those of you out there should recognize that is a Reef to Reef logo. So, so good friends with Dave for a long time. Both of us, I know, and so we want to get the word out over there on Reef to Reef as well to get people over to the Reefing Report. So I thought I'd help them out and wear a little bit of that Reef to Reef swag today.
Fantastic. We appreciate that from the Reef to Reef boys. I remember when the other forum website was the thing back when I started. So it's love the vibe over at Reef to Reef. Known Dave for a while, fellow Tennessean as well. So it's a small group in the saltwater aquarium world.
Yes,
but it's at the same time it's a big community all helping one another, which is great.
So, one other thing not reefing related that did happen, obviously, today. It's all over the news. Wanted to, since you talked about Tennessee, you're right there next to Kentucky. Horrible stuff that happened in Kentucky today. Heart goes out to all of those people. I wish they were right next door so I could go over there and help out and bring some food and other stuff to all of those people because, it's a tough time. So, donate to the Red Cross, or even better, some of the local stuff over there, and help those people out, help them get through this super tough time for them and their families, and no matter what time of year, but now going into winter, and they've had a few different kind of natural disasters and tragedies over there over the last couple of years, and this one is just horrific. So I just wanted to mention that real quick, Mark, even though it's not a reefing related thing.
No, it affected me. I mean, Saturday morning at 3 o'clock, actually, I woke up with emergency alert, and I have an old friend of mine, an old reefer friend actually, in San Diego of all places. He's a tornado hunter in San Diego. I don't know how that works, but he called me and said, "Hey, you need to go get sheltered just to be safe. You're probably fine." But so he was up at 1 a.m. calling to make sure I was safe. So talking about small community. Luckily, we were fine. But yeah, I mean, Mayfield, Kentucky got pretty much wiped off the map.
Is crazy. The look of the destruction. It's unreal. We're here talking about fish, and these people are struggling for their lives. But that said, we got to still cheer up and talk about fish.
Yeah,
because that's what we do. The world must go on some places, and that's what we'll do. But I just wanted to give them a little shout out. Also, speaking about the sponsorship thing, we will probably start here not too far off in the future. A couple of ads. We're not going to inundate the site, but a couple of Google ads so we can get established in that space. Not going to make a mint off of it, but at least we can get that established. And if any of you want to donate, you can donate to our Patreon, site that we have. It's kind of still in development, but it's out there and still will take donations. And that's at patreon.com/reefing report. You can go out there and make that donation. Very soon, I think we'll have enough cred in YouTube that we'll also be able to do super chats and those kind of things as well. So, anything that you guys will be able to help out with at some point, that would be great. But that's where we are with sponsors. So let's get right into the content, Mark. How about that?
I mean, like, you talk about the hot story of the week, which just kind of popped on our, I guess, yesterday or Friday. I was something popped up in my Facebook feed that Brett Raymer from Tanked is starting a YouTube show. As he calls it, a tank revival. So I was like, well, maybe they're looking for a revival or a Christmas, miracle. And then we went to look at it today, and it was suddenly gone.
Yeah,
wiped
I'm
off
pulling
Facebook.
it up right now. It's an interesting thing. The whole thing with Tanked is definitely an interesting situation with people in the hobby overall. I guess I can assume anybody on this live stream knows what was Tanked. It's no longer in production, but it is in syndication all around the world. It's one of the most watched series on Animal Planet of all time. Huge moneymaker, Nancy Glass Productions, etc. And it obviously featured the antics of setting up aquariums all around. And if you want to talk about something that it didn't really divide the reefing community, but it probably divided it in the sense that there was a number of people who just didn't care. And then there were people who were just, I mean, they were passionate, about what these guys, were doing or what they weren't doing in terms of taking care of animals and setting up aquariums, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. Where did you fall down on the whole tank thing? Where were you on that?
I mean, I was going to say, I think it divided the professional side of the aquarium world more
Okay.
with companies and I think, I mean, overall, I think reefers tend to keep their mouths shut a little bit. I mean, it's a small community. Certainly, anyone can jump up on a
Right.
Facebook group or forum and say stuff. But talking with people, it was, I got two sides of it. You talk to someone who's not an aquarium person. Like I was in Australia, and my Uber was taking me to the airport, and like, oh, I do saltwater aquariums, and like, oh, those guys on TV. Like I get that every single time, and you're like, yeah, they're
Right.
very entertaining. I get like 10 seasons on Animal Planet and being the most watched Animal Planet show. I mean, that's no small feat. Like no one in the saltwater aquarium world has done that. That's from a production standpoint, that's great. And I've come into some of their projects, been called in after the fact, and yeah, it was.
So I wasn't, I was always one of these people who I've been involved in a few of their things as well, with the Neptune stuff as well, and it was always interesting. It wasn't always great, but I didn't have such a black and white look at the show because I always equated it to the guys from Orange County Choppers who are building motorcycles that really are never going to be ridden a long time. And they probably, if you rode them for 500 miles, they'd probably fall apart on the side of the road. The welds would break. I mean, there'd be all sorts of things going wrong with them. But it was an entertaining show that that had some kind of mechanical aspects to it that was interesting to watch as they fabricated things. But it really wasn't the real deal, and any real motorcycle fabricator probably laughed like crazy, just like we laughed at the tank thing. And then many of the motorcycle fabricating people probably said, they're going to kill somebody. Oh, they don't care about safety. And look, he doesn't have the right mask on when he's welding that thing. And so I always looked at it that way, in that respect. And then the flip side of that was, for tank to, stick on Orange County choppers, the whole idea about having a custom motorcycle, I bet custom motorcycles during that era went up by like 2-3x, right? I mean, people wanting a custom motorcycle. And on the tank side, I thought to myself, wow, this is absolutely, and I talked to local fish store people and they hated the show. They're like, I want that thing off the air. And I'm like, do you really? Do you really want that thing off the air? Because that's a lead generator, okay?
And it can be a good lead generator. If it gets people in the door, like then you can have a conversation about it, even if you can then show them why
Bingo.
What works for this on TV doesn't work in life, which is what I told people. Like I used to be in television, I used to be in reality show. I'm like, it's great reality TV, not a great aquarium. Then it's a job for you to educate people. And like, as you and I always say, Terrence, like if you educate someone, even if it's hard news in a way, like, no, we're not going to make you a phone booth aquarium in your house. Sorry.
Right.
Like, why? Then it's like, oh, I trust this guy because it's not just trying to hawk the phone booth aquarium that I saw on TV.
It's very difficult because being in marketing, as I've been most of my career, even though I'm a technology guy, I understand the power and value of getting a lead, and then I understand the value of, you have an opportunity to do something with that lead. And so many local fish stores don't understand that real concept. They don't understand the concept that every time somebody walks through that door, it's a lead that they've paid for, and the more that walk through the door, the cost of their leads just went down if they didn't do anything to get those leads. And so, and if they drop that opportunity on the floor, what a waste, right? And so I've seen a lot of local fish stores that immediately had that particular attitude instead of embracing it and spinning it and flipping it, right? And going, yeah, these guys do those crazy things, but that's all on television. Let me tell you the right way to do that. I love those guys. Those guys are the greatest. Don't say, oh, those guys are stupid. They don't know what they're doing. It's like, no, these guys, they're great TV personalities. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, you know what? True. You can't have those fish now. Maybe someday you will, but let me show you how we're going to make you successful. And the stores that did that, they succeeded well during the tanked era. I will say the production staff and the production and everything else, it was interesting. It was interesting to watch. And the two guys were talking about, Brett here and his new endeavor. The two guys themselves, having spent a little bit of time with them, couldn't be really any different in their kind of personalities, in their like person-to-person personalities. And with all the yelling and everything else that went on, Wade is just a down-to-earth, cool,
quiet.
calm, quiet kind of guy,
Yep.
and Brett was, something a little bit different that I've seen on the set. So,
which works great for TV.
Sure,
fantastic for TV. I mean,
sure.
you
No,
could
but
do
even when
that
the
on your
cameras
own.
weren't rolling, I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know what the heck is going on with this bringing back. But what he's trying to get going here with this fishing thing or whatever with some radio station. But I'm sure it will be an interesting train wreck to probably tune into and talk about maybe on our next show.
Well, hopefully we get to, because it's just disappeared. Like,
I
where
know.
did it go? Did it get canned already before it even started? I mean, or who knows? Like, now I'm like, I wanted to see this, and now I don't get to see it.
I think I've got Brett's information on my phone though. I should text him. I'll text him live here, and we'll be like,
text him live. You could be really rude and be like, "Hey, you're live. Let's talk."
We're talking about you right now on the Reefing Report. Anyway, definitely some top news, and whenever there's kind of top news, whether it's just fun top news or real top news, that's where it's going to see. You'll always see it above the fold on the reefingreport.com.
Yeah, and if someone knows something about it, certainly let us know. We're curious. If you got some inside info on that, hit us up. We got a link on the website. You can tip us off on stuff. I mean, again, I'm a little disappointed because I wanted to see what this is about on many levels, and now it appears to just be gone.
Yep, for sure. All right, so next
We're
thing.
talking about tank builders. Let's talk about the other side of the spectrum of tank builders.
Good stuff, really good stuff. Glass stuff, not acrylic stuff. So obviously tanked is almost always, I know, acrylic. Hey, but it's nice and clear, though. I mean,
once. Okay, twice. Once the day you get it. The second time, once you buff it out.
Yes, and it's light. Bringing it in.
And then the next time you look at it, it scratches. So
it's certainly nice to bring it in, though. It's nice and light, right? So you can bring.
When you have lift tables, like if it's 500 pounds or 400 pounds.
I don't know, man. I don't know, because like this tank behind me is a Felix Reef Savvy tank. It was 950 pounds. So, and that's a 425 gallon tank. So, there is something to be said about acrylic being lighter, but you're absolutely right. It is a nightmare to not have a scratch on that tank. It's
only light once.
Yeah, it's true. It
okay.
It is true. It is true.
So luckily, Reef Savvy, who prides themselves on being the Gucci of aquariums, handmade.
That is funny that you say Gucci, because Felix, who's a really good friend of mine, at Reef Savvy, Felix is really big, or at least was really big. I don't know if he still is, but he was really big into all of these fancy shoes. So he probably has Gucci tennis shoes. That was his thing. So he'd be careful of the shoes. So anyway, so Felix was building tanks down near Miami. That's where his shop was. And the thing with Felix before at Reef Savvy was, if you wanted a Reef Savvy tank, you're going to wait. Okay? Felix makes amazing tanks with amazing features and an attention to detail that is unmatched. There is no question. There are many things out there in this world that they're overhyped in terms of they don't deliver at all on their hype. I'll tell you right now that the attention to detail on Felix's tank is not overhyped. But it is boutique, right? It is bespoke. The way that he would build things, and they would, they take forever to get in the list and to get one.
I think the wait now is 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, it was at least that when I was trying to get mine. And the funny thing is that I'm an impatient person, Mark, for the most part with stuff like that. And so I had to work some deals with Felix to bump somebody else out of the line, to encourage them to...
How many pairs of shoes did you buy?
Not for him. It was for the other person, to get them to give up their place in line so that I could take it. And and
did
then...
you give him a Trident? That was before Trident days.
That was before Trident. So, but there were some, equipment that I bought and traded and all kinds of stuff to get the person to give up. But anyway, the thing with it is Felix never could make a lot more tanks, and Felix was also, he integrated tanks, but he didn't do like soup to nuts glass finishing and whatnot, right? So he would order up the glass finished up the way that he'd want it to be. Maybe I should back up for people a little bit on this. So when you go to make an aquarium, they get these giant pieces of glass, 12 foot, some of them, 9 foot pieces of glass, and they come in and then they get dropped onto this air hockey table that they can move it around on. And I've been to a couple of factories in China where I've seen this stuff done firsthand. It's amazing to watch. And they literally drop that piece of glass.
Yep, I've seen it
onto the table. Yeah, and you're like, a half-inch piece of glass getting dropped like that onto the table, and then they basically have these guides and things where they then line up and cut the glass into the sizes that they need it to be. And then from there, it goes into to an edging and polishing process, and different equipment that does that, puts that nice beveled edge on it, polishes the edges, makes sure that everything's square. Then it goes, they go into inspection areas and all kinds of things that end up happening with the glass along the way. Well, Felix would get the glass basically ready to go from a finishing place. And obviously there's whenever you involve somebody else in that, it's... it makes it more difficult, right, to get your business going because you're waiting on somebody else. So what's really cool is, Felix has just added in this amazing piece of equipment. This stuff can cost anywhere from, like, if you buy a cheap one used, this finishing, equipment, and CNC, the finishing, so like $100,000 to maybe, almost $1 million for this kind of equipment. It's really, really expensive to run. It's super high tech. You can see here, this is the big XY table on here for cutting the glass, and then another edging machine that he's got here that runs the glass through that. It's giant. Stuff is unbelievable. And then it's all super high tech. Programming all the stuff into there. Here's the the CNC, so you can CNC the cool little holes in for your overflows or any of that kind of stuff. So that's out there. So he's got all this new equipment. You can see a crane bringing in the big old piece of glass to drop it onto the table. And here's a picture of the actual equipment going into his place, a stack of the glass that he's brought in, some more stacks of glass. You can see the glass there. So this is a big operation that Felix is doing. And why would this be happening, you think?
We talked about this week. It's like, if you're a boutique place, I understand needing new gear, it's baked to like diamond cut and polish your own glass, but it looks like his warehouse is much bigger than before. Now you got storage for stuff, maybe increased production. Is he going to start doing mainstream stuff, or even just high production stuff, even if it's still boutique high production? Kind of blend that line somewhere.
Well, one of the interesting things right now is obviously with the whole economic slowdown, not economic slowdown, but the like port slowdown and all of that, and getting stuff after COVID out of China, and all the Red Sea stuff that I know of is built over in China, right? All of the water box stuff is built over in China. I've been to both of the factories, and so they're kind of held hostage, so to speak, to whatever is going to be happening with that. And then here in the States, there's very few scaled places in the States. There's very few good aquarium builders in the States at all when you think about it.
Yep.
And there's very few, and maybe I think there's zero that can really do it at any kind of decent scale. So who do you use? I think you use out of Texas.
Yeah, I use Planet Aquariums. They built a tank behind me, and the glass that was cut behind me, the first time it came from the glass manufacturer, it was cut wrong. So they had to redo it. But in my case, COVID worked for me because the house addition was getting delayed where the tank was going to sit. So I was like, all right, let's get a bigger tank because now I can do it. And now I can, get also, it doesn't matter. It's going to take 2 to 3 months to get it in from overseas for the glass to then be cut because I've got time.
Right, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely. Hang on, I get another window back here for my thing, so I can get back to my scenes here. Sorry. There you go. Come back to me.
I mean, I can't imagine waiting 12 to 18 months for a Reef Savvy tank, and then you're told it's going to take another 3 to 4 months because the glass is sitting on the boat,
Well, yeah.
and
Well,
it's like, well, so maybe this is his way around it.
so with with Planet, you're saying that their glass, they also don't do it in house, so he would have a leg up on them because he's actually doing the glass himself.
Well, I mean, the cutting the stuff that they can do in house, but a lot of
Okay.
these guys, I mean, when I talked about it's getting glass from overseas, manufactured overseas versus U.S., it's like if you want U.S. glass, it's 11 times more expensive, even if it's made down the street. And like I understand paying it for quality, but how many people do you know will pay 11x just to have American made?
That's true, but I mean, if you take a look, I mean, it is a premium tank. I just popped this up on, so I mean, this is why it's happening, right? Bulk Reef Supply looks like they've got some sort of a contract with Reef Savvy to now, start bringing in tanks. So they've got a 180 gallon rimless tank. The tank alone is $6,500. So what does that retail from Planet Aquariums for? I don't know,
I
probably
mean,
2,500.
yeah, if that tank can stand, I mean, that's rimless, but I
No,
mean,
this
this
is just the
doesn't,
tank. This is just the
just the
tank.
tank.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, even if you wanted to waste some money on low iron glass, then it's still not that much.
I mean, it's got the cool overflows, obviously. It's got, I'm sure, all of the cool Reef Savvy, build quality things like the armored corners, which are really cool, by the way. I have them in my tank. I never have to worry about silicone in my tank. I just slam that, scraper to the
The mag
left and to the
scraper.
right, and I don't
Yep.
ever care because that was a really cool thing. Yeah, armored seams, right? That he
Yep.
has on there, right? Phantom got bottom glass, so he's got 1 3/8 inch, in the bottom, and the German, it's the German glass that he brings in. So it's really, really cool stuff. I mean, so if you want a premium tank, I'm sure that's where you go. But this is evidently why he's getting this whole thing together. And interesting. Look, it's Chris Benner's, Sticks and Stones is actually making the stands as well. So it's 13 grand if you want tank and stand to have
So, I
premium,
mean,
premium, premium.
we all know Bulk Reef Supply is the biggest retailer, so they push this out to their email list, and let's say 2% of people decide they want it. What do you think the lead time is going to be on that?
I don't know. I don't know how they're. I don't think it's 2% to begin with, right? But I can easily see where there would be 15 of these a month sold. Okay, so could they do 15 of them a month? At Reef Savvy. I don't know the way
What do
that
you,
they're set up.
I mean, I guess he's going to have to. Hopefully, someone in the conversation with him or Felix has thought about it. I'm sure he has. He's a smart guy. Like, would you, if you're a boutique brand, would you then take on doing 15 a month when maybe you only did two a month to keep your
And sold them
brand
for
boutique?
$28,000 a piece or whatever you're saying. Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, just if Porsche all of a sudden made a Kia type SUV, would you want to do that to your brand?
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I don't think that the brand is hurt too much here because of the price point and because he hasn't lowered the quality of the tank, right? I personally think there's room in the industry for like a somewhere in between kind of world that exists between the where the water box Red Sea kind of stuff sits and the full on boutique kind of tank stuff. I think there's some place in between, right?
Sure.
That can still exist, and I don't think that would hurt his brand. To be honest with you, I think I I think it's pretty safe. But whether or not it can be executed on, that's the key, right? I mean, um,
I mean, I've told that he will rip apart a tank because he doesn't like the silicone work on it. So if you're going to do that, if you're cranking out 15 a month, and then I'm also curious now is like, is he the one doing them? Maybe Felix himself is just going to be doing the high end custom, and he's got a valued good apprentice doing the mass produced tank. I don't know. Like we don't know that. Maybe you can
to
check.
be honest, I don't have a problem with that either, as long as
Sure.
it's done the right way and that there's you always like to have apprentices in what you're doing, and as long as you have the oversight and you will rip it apart if the guy gets it wrong.
But when he rips it, I was told he rip apart his own tank, which is good too. Like that's, I mean, if he can train someone and have an eye for it, understand there's some, there's always headaches with that. But if he wants to scale it, which he's going to have to if Bulk Reef is selling it,
Right.
and then, we'll be interested to watch. It's a cool. It's we'll see.
I don't know. I mean, Steve Pitts just gave a comment, said a lot of money just to say you have a Reef Savvy tank. I think it's a little bit more than that. I do believe they are better tanks, okay? I'm going to tell you right now that, again, having the armored seam, having the way he does the silicone joints and everything else, when I look at a Reef Savvy tank, I can clearly tell the difference. And on top of that, some people just want to have that. They not just to say it, but they just feel right about, look, it's an extra $5,000. Look, you work with these kind of people all the time. Okay.
Sure.
So you can go to somebody and say, look, we can easily put a Vectra L2 on this, right? And they're like, nope. The only thing it's going to do for me is an ABIZ A400. I want an ABIZ A400 on this, but you're gonna run it at like 15%. And they're like,
Exactly.
I don't care. It's $2,500. I don't care that it's 6 times as much.
Yep.
And that's fine. There's those people out there, and they help make the world go round.
Yeah, it takes all types. I had that conversation with a client. I actually had that conversation this week. I was like, look, this is the Seashade 9.0 works for your tank, the SDC. It's like solid pump. It has great notifications. It's controllable through your Apex if you want to. If you want the best of the best, the Ferrari of the world, you can get an Abiz. It's going to cost you about $2,700, whereas the Abiz was $400. Some people just want the best. If you want it, I'll get it for you. Both of them will work. Which do you prefer? And in the end, he wanted to go with the Seashade, which I was like, it'll work fine. Some people just want the name of an Abyss, which is good too. Like you said, it takes all types. Some people want to wait. Yeah. I tell clients, like, if you want a Reef Savvy, they have a great name, they build a great product. If you want to wait 12 to 18 months, I can get it for you.
Yeah, I know also the low iron thing. You're not a big low iron guy either, right? You do green glass, huh?
Is this tank low iron? Other than it's not because you know me. I mean. That's apparently Dallas North Aquarium, and I've been there. They have 3 tanks in their showroom next to one another.
Yes, in the wall, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll say, which one of these, they'll walk in there and say, which one of these is low iron? And, like, no one gets it right.
But it's not fair either. That's a bad example because one of them's a reef tank, one of them's a fish-only tank, and one of them's like a planted tank. So, I don't know. I tell you what, let me put it this way. If I was going to be spending big coin, and I have, right, and it's just there's two things to it. Number one, is it more clear? Absolutely, it is. Will you know the difference? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. The second thing is, it's 3 things. It's going to cost you more money. It's not going to cost you dramatically more money if you're already spending a lot of money anyway. For a lot of people. Number 3, it is softer. It will scratch easier. So that is for sure. Okay, I have a couple of scratches in mine, and I didn't get it just to say it's that way. I got it because it's definitely clearer. When I look at the glass, on its own, it looks clearer. So,
okay, so Terrence, I'm going to call you on this one now. So you spend the money because it's just better because of the name. I've been into your sump room, into the guts of the Terrence Fugazi Reef. You could have a Bubble King skimmer, but you're running a Reef Octopus, which both work. Bubble King works much better. But if you have a Reef Savvy, why don't you have a Bubble King?
Yeah, that's an interesting. So now we're on a tangent here.
Okay? But it's the same thing. Like Reef Savvy.
It's close to the same thing, but it's not the same thing. And here's the reason it's not the same thing because the Reef Octopus skimmer was like $650. Okay.
Okay.
The Bubble King skimmer would have been $1,650. Okay.
Okay.
So the difference is 2.5x. Okay. The difference on glass, low iron or not low iron, in my aquarium is not 2.5 times the difference. So when I look at something like that, am I getting 2.5 times more? Yeah, I don't think so. And am I getting, 5% more with the clear glass? Maybe. But if I'm not, 5% is like, yeah, whatever. So it's not the exact comparison in my opinion, but I get where you're coming from on it, and just so that it's completely transparent, I probably would have been in longer term better shape had I bought the Bubble King. So that is, yeah, I can tell you this, and since Steve is on here, right? Because Steve can't pass up, right? I love it. I love Steve to death, right? Terrence Fugazi's Reef Octopus powered by, and he's 100% correct. It's got the big beast fractionating pump from Seashade on it right now. And I was going to get there, Steve, but thank you for reminding me anyway. And it is skimming way more like a beast now than it ever did. And the jury will be out onto whether or not it craps out like the other 2 or 3 Reef Octopus pumps have on that tank that have died for one or two different reasons, or sorry, on that skimmer. We will see. But for now, I absolutely love that thing. And I'll tell you what I also love about it, okay? And I'm not even working there anymore. This is a big tangent now, which is it's connected to my Apex through IOTA. And I have a skimmate receptacle, right, where inside it's basically a bucket. Inside the bucket is a 1 gallon jug. And the skimmate goes into the 1 gallon jug. And then I have an optical sensor in the bucket. So if I get an overflow, it'll fill up the 1 gallon, then go into the bucket and trigger the sensor. When it triggers the sensor, the skimmer goes from 100% to 50%. And that way, if it's having some sort of weird overflow thing, it'll just stay at 50% until I change out the, clear the code with the skimmate overflow. So having that is really cool with the IOTA. So there you go.
I mean, you said 1 gallon, Terrence, which is a perfect segue to our next news story. It's something you found out this week.
Oh, look at you with the segues, man. I love it. Good.
The Pico tank, which, I mean, we called it really a micro tank. Ken over at saltwateraquarium.com, he showed it to me when I was at home office 2 weeks ago, and I was like I think there's a half gallon and a 1 gallon tank.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like.
Yeah, this one. Okay, let me pull it up here on the screen.
And I think it's partly sold as like a frag tank, and I'm like, how do you dose alkalinity in a half gallon tank? Like eyedropper to like, there you go.
It's so funny because it's got like a little sump underneath, and
I know it's even got a sump with a return pump. And you're like,
this is pretty darn cool. I don't know. I may have to get one of these just for the heck of it. If Ken wants to send me one, I'll stick it in my kitchen and we'll report back on it, and see what happens with it. But it's definitely a cool little conversation piece. I think it's probably 6 months and you're done with it, kind of thing. But hopefully, like many of these small tanks, nobody looks at that and goes, well, if I just start small, then it should be really easy, right, to be successful.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is this in a way sending the wrong message because they won't have success with it because it's so small and so all over the place? And they're like, well, good thing I didn't get a big saltwater tank because if I can't keep the small one stable, there's no way I can handle it.
Yeah, and that's what everybody says, right? Yeah,
right. That's what they
doubt.
all say. And I'm like, no, just get a 40-gallon tank. Sounds like so much. Like, no, but if you're starting with a 1 gallon tank or a half-gallon tank, like how successful can you be? And then what does at that level that then makes you want to go jump to something else? Like maybe you're not going to be successful at all because you just can't. I mean, I'm curious, like what can I grow in a half-gallon tank successfully with being as a newbie?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, no doubt. I've had the nano tank alongside my other big tank when I was still living in Utah, and it was great, and it was actually a lot of fun, but it was a lot more work. I had my hands in that tank a lot more, and there was a lot more. If I missed water changes on my other one, it wasn't that big of a deal. If I missed water changes on that little one, it was all over quick. It was a complete, like, take everything out, suck all the water out, put water back in, put everything back in, and start over. But this is definitely kind of cute, and I'd probably give it a try just because for the fun of it. And Mike Old said go big or go home. I'm with you on that. I probably should have gone as big as Mark did, with this one behind me. But I thought, at the time, 425 was...
Sounds like a lot. It happens every time. I tell people, after 6 months, when you first get it, you'll be like, whoa. And then after 6 months, you're like, it's not so big anymore. Should have gotten bigger.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. But it wasn't 6 months. But yes, it definitely.
Yeah.
It definitely
6 months or
home.
less.
It definitely hit home once everything really, really started growing in. And speaking of Pico tanks, okay, another one of the posts that you came up this week from Reef to Reef.
This was hilarious. I saw it and I was like, so there's no way this has got to be crazy, but it's true. It's true.
I don't know if people can see, but there are 2,225 pages for this particular tank
8-gallon.
It started, looks like about 4.5 years ago, for an 8-gallon BioCube.
I'm still laughing about it. Now it's definitely become like a joke because it's like, bump, we got to keep this thing up.
I mean, Dave had to up his storage on his database server just for this thread, right? just to keep this thread going. He's like has to get a donation from them just so their thread can stay alive.
And I
Yeah.
don't even, we were digging through it earlier. It's like, I don't even think there's a picture of the build. Like, we're 10 pages in and we didn't see it.
Oh,
So,
and then people are it's its own now comedy thing because people are just posting all sorts of other pictures in there. I'm on the last page right now from September, right? And people are like, thanks for the recommendation. Oh yeah, okay, bump, yeah, this is awesome. Full tank shot, please. You know, and
I
then
wonder if it's still up. We should do
and then somebody
a
said like this
post.
thread was removed off the first page of trending in the last 40 hours. We got to bring it back.
Let's bring it back. I
So
mean,
everybody get out there, let's watch and tell your friends to go give them some love, I guess, on this thread. Speaking
that's
of
hilarious.
love, once again, since we do have, a good amount of people on the stream now, be sure we still got probably another 20 minutes to go. So if you want to share it on your Facebook, out there or Twitter or IG or whatever that we're doing this stream right now, that'd be great. Also bookmark that reefingreport.com. By the way, if you bookmark it on your phone, it will create a really cool, icon that says RR, and so it's just like having an app. So you just go out and tap that, and whenever you want to go tap that, and then go back, and you'll be right there at the Reefing Report. Yeah. So that is the
The
BioCube.
Pico micro
Yeah.
tank with the 8-gallon tank that's winning Reef to Reef award
So
for
compared to the
most
Pico,
page.
Mark's tank is to Terrence's as the 8-gallon Nano is to the Pico.
To the half-gallon micro tank that you can buy,
Yeah,
or
something
the
like
Pico
that.
that has 2,000 pages on Reef to Reef.
All right.
But all right,
Let's
so
talk about some products here, some other products, real products, not just the fun and game stuff, especially now we got a little bit bigger audience here watching. So do you use one of these micro fleece toilet paper, automatic toilet paper roller thing bobbers? You do?
yes, I do.
Okay.
I mean, you have to give it the heart. Let's go with the pop culture heart. Love that
Okay.
thing. Absolutely love it. I ran filter socks for a while, and then when I would go out of town for projects, I would pull it because I'm not going to ask my wife to pull the filter socks and wash them because you need to wash them immediately or else they never come clean. So it's like I'll just pull it whenever I'm out of town, and I was like, I'm pulling it so often, forget it. Just won't even run them. And look, the tank worked fine. There's plenty of tanks out there
I
right
don't
now.
run
Filter
filter
socks.
socks.
Yeah, like there's the success right
Except when
behind
I'm
you.
doing maintenance to clean all the sand out, and I'm cleaning algae or sand or blowing sand out or whatever. Then I'll put them on, and then I'll forget, and then I'll have 50 gallons on the floor in my my fish room. But other than that, I don't run filter socks.
So it can be done. Success is, I mean, right there behind Terrence. Like he doesn't run them. You can do it without it. And having run, I tried some of the small ones. It was a disaster. I didn't find one that I liked. Had high hopes for them, but I run one now and absolutely love it. And it's
So
just
first
so
of all,
easy.
there's a ton of people making these things. They started out. The guy over in Germany or whatever was the first really big successful one that came out. There was actually a guy in Florida who, quote unquote, invented it. He's come to a few of the Reefapalooza Orlando shows, and he has these crazy pieces of equipment. I don't know if you've seen him. I can't remember the name of the guy. The older
Oh,
guy, inventor dude. He's got
yeah,
this. He's got this like this water changing system
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
concentrated salt slurry in it, and then he's got another filtration thing that uses the same filters as they use for dialysis for filtering your tank, and then
So one of my clients had me put his roller on there. Here you go.
so he claims, what is it? Send it to me in the
C
chat.
Vision CADs.
Send it
I'm
to me in
sending
that
it over
chat.
to you. Yep. C
Um,
Visions.
okay, there it is. Let me put this up for people. So this is interesting. So this is why we do this this show. So okay.
There you go.
So this guy, I met him at Reefapalooza about 5 years ago, and he was a little bit salty about the fact that he had come up with this roller mat technology originally. But you guys really should go out and go to his site because his products are crazy. Okay, like this is one I haven't even seen yet that I've got up here, which is some other kind of, I don't know, wheel of death or something. I don't know what it is. But you can see here he does have the roller mat on the screen there, and that was the original roller mat according to him. I mean, the guy is old as dirt, so he definitely You know, I have no reason not to believe he was one of the original people that put it together. But then the guys over there in Germany made one. Ryan at BRS made it super successful, doing a ton of videos and getting it out there about it. Really cool thing about that one that I did like about it was the idea that it did have a cover, and if you had it in an inside sump kind of, you know, thing, not like your tank or my tank, but like most people's aquariums, it would at least keep that closed and stank not, you know, developing to rot, which is an issue with these things, in my opinion. In the ones I've seen run, they stink. We had one in the office tank at Neptune Systems. I think it's still there. And I'd walk by that thing, and you could just smell it. You could smell the stuff rotten on it. But the way that they work generally is they have a water area where the water comes in. The water flows through the paper or the material that's there and goes, you know, and traps all the stuff and flows out. And the speed at which it can flow the water out determines how high the water level is. And when the water level gets too high, it triggers a sensor, and then it advances the material a certain amount. And there are various algorithms for doing this. Some of them have to do with not using up your material too quickly. Some of them have to do with not cleaning the tank too much. Like if you want to keep a little bit of kind of nutrient goo going in the water. So some of them have that in mind. Some of them drop in nicely into filter sock areas. I've heard those are somewhat a nightmare, that they don't work that great. But overall, that's the concept, and I think they've been pretty much worked to death. But no,
there's another newcomer.
But there is another one. Let's see. Hope this link still works. So Focustronic, the guys that brought you the Alcatronic, the Mastertronic, the Solartronic, the Everytronic. No, they don't have the Everytronic yet, but now they probably will. They now have in beta a new filter material advancer, whatever you call these things, with some really cool electronics in. I have no idea what it's supposed to do that's different. Do you?
No, I mean, I would say it connects to your apex, but that's probably a low chance.
I bet it is going to be
happening.
white and orange and be a lot bigger than it probably should be, because that is part of the motif in the product line. As you see in this image, you can see there's 3 products there, and they're just giant. The Dostronic, the Alcatronic, and the Mastertronic.
This reminds me a little bit of when the Vectra came out from Ecotech, because they told me they were coming out with a return pump, and I'm like, it pumps water back into your tank. If you want to change the speed, like what else is there to do on a return pump? And then they had some cool things with feed mode where it didn't kill the pump, it just ramped it down. So I'm like, maybe Focustronic is doing something with
Well, I know there are
this
some
roller.
extra, features in the one from not Bubble King, but what's the Royal Exclusive? So the Royal Exclusive one comes in the fancy box. Ryan has it on his tank. It's got some extra electronics in it to help prevent, advancing the material too fast or something. I don't even understand how it works. Anyway, so there is yet another toilet paper roll that's going to come out, and interesting to see what the price is. There's a couple you can read about it. Also, there's a blog post that I've posted up here too, from the Bulk Reef Supply site. There are no extra pictures on it, but and not a whole lot of information. But you can go out to the Focustronic site and or webpage, or I guess probably out to their Facebook fan page, and ask them more questions about it. Evidently, there are some of them that are out there. Speaking of those guys, though, we did get a little video snippet, didn't we, today that you found? So supposedly, I mean, the interesting thing right now for anybody who's having any issue, they have this, and I'm not saying this is the case here. So this is, I want to make sure that that's entirely clear. But in general, companies in general, even outside the reef keeping community, if anything is not going right in your business, it's because there's a slowdown in the way things are getting here, and it's a great excuse to cover just about everything. The chip shortage. I mean, and some of it's true. So that's the amazing part in anything that of that type is as long as it has a little bit of truth to it, it makes it very believable. But anyway, if you want to see where and how the Mastertronic is built, they did do a little video on. Oh, look, there we go. Oh, I got to get a I got to get me an ad first before I can get to it. So,
Oh, imagine that.
there you can see them being built over in China.
Quickly. But seems like by 4 people.
Yeah. So anyway, so as most people who know about the China thing, the production lines are used for many different products from many different companies to integrate things. So it's not likely that there is a Mastertronic factory that's slowed down over there, but there is an integrator that's putting these things together. And who knows, if it's what's really going on. There was a lot of demand at first for the Mastertronic. I think it's a cool idea. I haven't tried it. I can't comment if it works well or it doesn't work well. I can comment to the fact that it seems like a lot of effort to make everything loaded up. And yeah, it's just there's a lot of side effort in there, but maybe it's awesome. But there is a thread out there on Reef to Reef where people are asking about where is it and everything else, and it's not getting a whole lot of attention. So
one post.
Yeah, so
if you got an update on it, we'd love to hear about it. I mean, for slamming demand, it seems kind of quiet over.
And speaking of that, you can go to the tip us off at the top of the page. So right up there at the top of reefingreport.com, you will see a link to tip us off, and you can do it anonymously and send us any kind of cool information you have. It could be drama, it could be tips, it could be just about anything. And then just to the left of that is that beautiful donate button, which will take you to Patreon. And even better than that is a subscribe button. So if you haven't done that, do that on YouTube for us. We do appreciate that. So that is, yes.
Donate to refill your CO2 media scrubber, your media for your CO2 scrubber, because you blow through it in 2 weeks.
You are the man of segues, man. You are so good on the segue.
Hey, we all have our talents.
I know. All right, so last week, early in the week, right after our show on Monday, I believe, I shared this idea from Ryan for, I think did I link it correctly on here? Probably not, so I'll probably have to go in the middle here somewhere. So a lot of people have an issue with, with trying to get their pH level in a range above 8, which is advisable. Okay, doesn't mean you can't have success below 8, but it is advisable. And some have basically stated, and BRS has even tested, that corals grow better at that higher pH level, at the 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, that there are reasons why they're going to calcify better and grow better. Again, assuming they also have things like nutrients in the water to help them grow, and so you don't have other issues. But there is an issue with running CO2 scrubbing material. So if you take a look, you can see here's some pictures of the CO2 kind of canister, scrubber canister, and some tubes going into it. And basically, this kind of equipment, the way it works is you inject or you suck air through this thing that's going to then go into your skimmer. So your skimmer sucks its fresh air through the CO2 media. The dilemma therein is that you don't really necessarily have control over it. If it just only have that, it's just going to go wherever it's going to go. And so you could get super high on the pH into not so great levels. And you're also going to deplete the CO2 media really fast, and then it costs money to go get more CO2 media, which is why companies, if you want to have that type of approach, probably want you to use it because it is a consumable resource, and I don't fault them for that, but it is a reality. That said, there is a new methodology that's being touted, which it looks very interesting to me. I don't know that it's fully vetted or tested out, and I know Ryan goes through this stuff quite a bit to try different things out. And that is that you now suck the air from not just fresh air, but out of your skimmer, through the media, and back through, and then you have a valve on there that will bypass to fresh air, so that when the valve opens, it's not sucking from the skimmer through the media. And therefore, you can regulate. So you can set your apex, for instance, to 8.2, And then when it gets up to 8.25, this solenoid opens and fresh air goes in to the skimmer, as opposed to the air coming through the CO2 media. So that's kind of how it works. I think it's kind of cool. I know there are some people who are in extreme situations where they don't have the ability to bring in fresh air, or bringing fresh air doesn't even counter it enough because they live in very tight houses with a lot of people, dogs, animals, kids, and whatnot, and they have a hard time, getting that pH level up. And then you have a bunch of other people who just love gadgets and who think having, 7.9 or 8.02 is just too low for them, and those are the people I'd say this is not for you. But this is controversial. It isn't for everybody running CO2 scrubber, and so now Mark is going to give you his opinion on this.
Thanks, Terrence, for the segue. I'm joining you tonight from San Francisco.
Oh, wait a second. Before you start, we do have one of the people who have the super low pH level, Richard Back, okay, from out in Florida. He's one of the guys who has always had low pH levels. So tell him why he's not smart for running something like this, Mark.
Okay, so I did a show, I have to look, 9 or 10 years ago, because it started with running your skimmer intake tube outside.
Right.
So that's what I did in my house in Texas, because I lived in a 1,000 square foot house, and it was me, my wife, and my son. And the CO2 would build up, and you could watch the pH drop. Because when I could open the windows, those 2 days in Texas when it's warm enough and not too cold enough to do it, I could watch the pH go up. So I ran the pH tube outside, and that got me about a 0.1, 0.2 bump. And then I got a CO2 scrubber, because that was on Reef to Reef back then. So then I did that, and it got me maybe another 0.1, 0.2. And the media turns purple when it's exhausted. And within 2 weeks, 3 at most, it was exhausted and had to go get more. So I was constantly turning media.
It's like right here in the arm, right? It's like,
oh yeah, always.
like
Boom, boom, as boom, a retailer, if I was smart back then, it would have been like, oh, well, let's go find this stuff and start selling bulk CO2 media. Because anyway.
Right.
So the point is, that tank, my 90-gallon tank, for those of you that have followed me for a long time, that tank did really, really well. And that's pH hung out in that tank about 7.7 to 7.8. That was my daily swing. Everything grew really well. I tried to get it up with CO2 media and run it outside, and just blew through media. It was very expensive. I shut it down after, I think, about 2 months. And then ultimately, I look at the tank and is the coral growing really well? Yes. Could it grow faster? Maybe, but am I going to notice that? And is it measurable to the average hobbyist? Probably not. So you're right. There's some people who like to tinker. The more I do this stuff, the more I'm like, what's going to make my life easy? As one of my clients says, is a juice worth to squeeze for CO2 scrubbers. For me, it's definitely not. And then putting switches on there to do stuff based on pH numbers, to me, I'm like, it's not worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, especially tacking more stuff on. And I get it. Some people like to tinker, which I am a little bit. That's totally fine. My bigger concern is someone new coming into the hobby. They find this, so they're like, oh, now I need to set up a CO2 scrubber. And then, therefore, do they believe to have my tank be successful? Does that drive people away?
Yeah, I'm partially with you. I think that would you have a higher likelihood of having a great tank at 8.2 or 7.8? Okay, with it swinging. Again, this is just coming from me for what it's worth. I'm going to say that I'm going to have a higher likelihood of having a successful tank at 8.2 for a myriad of reasons, but for the main one, which is I'm not near the danger zone as closely, and so my ability to get down way lower and have issues is not going to be there. So for those people who are there and who don't mind tinkering and who don't mind that kind of stuff, this is the kind of thing similar to me running a sulfur denitrator, that if you are in that and you've already established that you are, that kind of you're running a tank that way, and you don't have extreme success already running in that, in that realm, then this is something I absolutely would try. I think running it the way Ryan is talking about is innovative and the way to go. I'm not scared of the technology side of doing it, and I think it offers a way to do it more economically so that you can run it. And by the way, you can get that media, just so you know, it's used for scuba divers and things like that. So you can
Yep.
get it in bulk in other places, not cheap, but certainly more economically than buying it in smaller batches. So this is one of those where I'm completely split, and I'm totally understanding of the people watching this and freaking out about, like, oh, mine was at 7.8. I need to go buy this gadget too, I don't like that either. And that's why I don't talk about, for instance, something sulfur denitrator thing that much, or I'm very careful who I give the information to, right? If they get asked about it, because it is also one of those things, just like this piece of equipment, that in the wrong hands, you also can have a very detrimental thing happen to your aquarium, for a lot of reasons. So anyway, but that's not the only reason that some people don't like it. There is another reason, and there's a guy whose initials are RHF, and he's been around a long time, and he is the go-to chemistry dude. It's Randy Holmes Farley, and there are articles upon articles upon articles that he's written on all things about the reef keeping hobby. And myself and you and Ryan and everybody else has gone to his articles time and time again to read them and to
very good articles. I might add.
Very good, and because they go into the science of the reasons why things are or they're not. They're very logical, and if and it's definitely the kind of thing if you're in the hobby and you haven't read them, you need to go out and read some of his articles. But he came on to Reef because there's a whole thing about this recirculating skimmer, scrubbing thing. And Randy Holmes Farley chimed in and said, CO2 scrubbers are certainly not nonsense, as the title asks, but they may not be the best way to raise pH in many settings. I'm not a fan of recirculating air, not because of CO2 and pH effects, but because it eliminates the benefit of oxygenation in the skimmer. Some proponents seem to be unaware of this concern. How much, if any, effect one will see from this, depends, who knows, blah, 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 right? So there's definitely, not everything can be always rosy. There's always some sort of a side effect or something that happens whenever you do anything, and potential to have issues. And he brings up one of them here. So it's certainly something to look at. People often don't realize how much their skimmer does other than skimming for the success and health of their aquarium. All of those amazing little bubbles that are pulling in oxygenated air for the fish, for the corals, and for everything else. So there's definitely, as Richard says, there's definitely a trade-off, it's for everybody to think of. But I'm going to look at this and say this is a 1%er. 1% of the people out there should probably be looking at something like this, and if they do, they should be looking at the way to best do it, because there might not be another way for those people, just because of the way things are set up in their home and everything else. They may not be successful.
Terrence, I'm checking into my Apex Fusion dashboard, in my pH, which I cross-referenced with my Hannah pH checker today, is 7.7.
Okay.
And so I've been curious on why it's so low, because it's not that high in my house, and the skimmer is actually downstairs in a room that usually I'm not in. But the tank is doing well. I'm certainly not. I mean, would it be great if it was 8.3? Sure. I don't lose sleep over it. I think you're right. It's definitely a 1%er thing. The part of my thought is, if I'm a 1%er, if I just come into the hobby, how do I know that that's a 1%er thing if I just look at it and say, do I need this?
Yeah, no, it's definitely because there's people like us that are going to say it's a 1%er thing. So that's the thing. So you should be watching people like Mark and Terrence, and they'll be giving that kind of insight to help you out, or other people. There's some smart people on this stream already who have chimed in as well on this. And yeah, it's just there's a lot of ways to have a successful reef. And Sanjay as well runs super low pH, on his tank, and he grows corals like crazy. So there's no doubt that it is possible, but because there are so many variables involved, my opinion on the thing is get as many of them into the positive world as you possibly can to have the highest likelihood for success.
I mean, at least we're innovating, right? Like, we're not still like, hey, I got my bio balls. Can I borrow some bio balls from you? And
Yes.
I'm going to get my hang on bag filter, and I'm going to call up Richard back because he's got some bio filters that I know I can borrow to get in my penguin for my tank. And I got some crushed coral from your tank to start my nitrogen cycle.
Or
Yeah.
we can talk about there's a good video that's on here about the canister filter. You know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Rich and Ben really made a good point about that this week on the Reef Beef.
So I'm gonna now we'll see if Steve's still on the thing because Siche is like the canister filter god, right? They make so many
The
canister
whale.
filters.
The
The
whale.
whale,
Don't you
and
have a whale?
I'm gonna crap all over the canister filters too. So it's like yeah, they got these giant canister filters, and then they make them also I think for Seachem too. So Seachem's got canister filters as well, and yeah, it's like who's selling a canister filter these days? I mean, really?
Well, for freshwater people, it's the rage, and like they're all about
Sure.
it, and it can work for saltwater. Like there's lots of ways to run a saltwater
But
tank.
CJ
You
is
need
selling these
water.
into the saltwater world, okay? And I'm like, do you know what it must cost for the tooling for that thing?
I mean,
How
it's
many
made in
parts
Italy
are on
too.
that thing and how
But look,
big it is? The tooling
it's
on that has to be the size of a washing machine, okay? I mean, it's just like
it. The quick thing is I've always said was anything in your saltwater tank, whether like I always go to it like with stand height and accessibility to your tank or your sump. If it's hard to get to, if it's hard to service, you're not going to do it, and eventually that's going to catch up with you. And a canister filter for your tank, saltwater tank, can work, but it's not the easiest thing to service. It's certainly not as easy as just a sump. So then you're probably not, and then it's going to get clogged up, and then you're going to have issues. So,
well, also the canister filter thing is the perfect type of forget it kind of thing, right? Because it's like hidden under there. It's all you can't smell it. You can't. It's just and so like 6 months later, you're like, man, why is my aquarium going bad? And then you like shut the pump off and you open that thing up, and it's like a biohazard zone in your house because it's been like nitrate factoring inside the thing for how long. Speaking of that, I do have to clean my denitrator too because it's full of gum too. But anyway, um, but
I mean,
that is
another
funky.
one of those things, another of those examples where it can work, but if it's hard to service, you're probably not going to do it.
Yep.
And you got to haul the canister filter out and clean the thing out. Is it as easy as pulling a filter sock, pulling your roller fleece, pulling your protein skimmer cup? No. It can work for some people. It's not for me. And, it's,
Well,
I think those guys really nailed it.
now that we've bored everybody with canister filters, we're going to bring in one last thing, and we're going to call it a night. And this is one that's near and dear to my heart because I've been involved with it for a number of years, and that is the toy drive that Reef to Reef does every year. It is one of the coolest things that they do. They basically collect all kinds of giveaway items and hold raffles and whatnot to raise money for the kids, and then they take toys out to a bunch of different places around their area. They also send money overseas for various other, really goodwill projects overseas. I think in Pakistan and other areas last year. And every year for quite a number of years, we've done kind of a little telethon at Neptune Systems for the Toys for Kids. And so I encourage all of you out there, help the kids out this year. Go out to Reef. Go out, donate. Go, get your raffle tickets. I don't even know what he's doing this year, but there's a whole bunch of stuff, being raffled. And so definitely go out there and participate. It's for the kids.
Absolutely. All of us you're not in the saltwater tank hobby if you're not blessed at some reason. All of us have something to give back, whether it be money or a donation or time or whatever it is you can do. Just give what we can give and help others who are in need.
And I'd like to see some of the bigger companies on here. I mean, bravo to Tunsa, who's in here. And bravo to the smaller companies, like Top Shelf Aquatics or Living Reef. But I don't see a CJ logo in there, so I'm going to call out Steve on that one. I certainly don't see the Neptune logo in again this year, so that's, I wonder about that. And BRS is not in there. Saltwater is not in there.
Ecotech's not in there.
Ecotech's not in there. Definitely call out them and help out the kids. This is the most popular reefing community forum site in existence, and they do a lot of goodwill for a lot of kids. And even if you donate to a lot of other charities, this one is associated with reef keeping, and you can put your name to it. So that's my soapbox on this one.
Yeah, no, it's a great cause, and we'll bring it up every week until it's over. So thanks for bringing that up, pointing that out, and let's throw in a donation there on behalf of the Reef Report and get it started. And encourage others to do the same.
We'll give them 30% of all of our revenue.
we can, this may have to be a out of our pocket donation, which is fine. That's
It's
how
fine.
we'll do it.
Absolutely.
That's how we'll do it.
100%. We'll talk to Dave and we'll make it happen, 100%. Absolutely. Anyway, that's it for this episode, Mark.
We'll be back next Sunday, same time, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time. Again, if you have any tips, you have any info for us, it's on the website, reefandreport.com, up on the top. Tip us off.
Yep.
If you want to donate to us, we'd certainly appreciate that as well. But let us know. What do you like? What do you not like? Tell us about it. This thing always will be a work in progress. We want to hear you guys' comments, your feedback. Feel free to hit us up. You can even hit us up anonymously if you want to say something but don't want to have your name attached to it. We enjoy you guys watching. We enjoy everyone who's been with us tonight. We hope you have a great holiday season. Stay safe. Enjoy your tanks. And we'll catch you next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the Reefing Report.
And share. Get the word out on the Reefing Report for us. I'm going to remember who you people are because I'll find you on Facebook and whatnot. I'll see your shares, and I'll know who you are, and I will give you something down the road because that's how it is. So pay it forward for us, and we'll take care of you later on. So until next time, that's the Reefing Report. See you later.